live. This is one for the record. It is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2012. I wanted you to catch part of this show, which is The Earth Changes on Dr. Deagle's Nutramedical. So I'll turn this up for you.
Welcome back to the Nutramedical Report, and we have John Moore and Ann Morrison. John, what's the latest update?
Well, we've seen an ever-increasing amount, it seems, of volcanic activity and seismic activity in places that have never had it before. Swarms of earthquakes in places. And, of course, we have a 188-day cycle that will end next week on March 22nd. Will be the fifth of these 188-day cycles where there's been a major earthquake somewhere in the world, usually, but not always, on a ring of fire. So a lot of us will be watching that day with some, trepidation, I guess you'd say, to see what's going to happen. We anticipate there will be another major earthquake, and this cycle will continue. So it's more of the same, more of what we've known it would be coming for a number of years, and you and I and Ann have been talking about for years that these events would become more frequent and more violent, and that's exactly what's happening, which of course leads back to getting prepared, getting your nutraceuticals, getting your water filters and food and so forth, so that you won't have to depend on government, which won't be there when you need it.
Now, John, one of the cycles that we were looking at is a lot of the top climatologists are talking about a 360-year cycle, 11,500-year cycle, 105,000-year cycle. And it turns out scientists like Cody Jones and Sky over at LaRouche Foundation are presenting information. I have quite a bit of articles on it now, on the issue of from space.com about the cosmic forces occurring every 62 million years when the Orion arm of the galaxy passes through the galactic plane. Now, there's a number of events that happen, but this is one of the big ones. It's called a major extinction level event, and we're actually, believe it or not, in a process of transitioning through that galactic plane right now. And so part of the reason that's happening is cosmic rays are causing changes in the volcanism under the Earth. We're also about to transition through to a different torsion field. And I know that Dr. McKinney probably has some information on this too in terms of effect on plasma. All of our stars are plasma, all the magma in our Earth, because our Earth is basically a nuclear reactor with a crust on it that we call the surface of the Earth. I'm sure you'd have some comments on something like this, because the plasma physics of our electric universe, which is the words that Dr. McKinney kind of put together, Professor McKinney, is a pretty big deal. Can you comment on that? Because you have a lot of knowledge in this area about changes.
Well, Professor McKinney's theories that he developed at Cornell University in the late 1970s are proving to be more true all the time. And we need to be paying attention to his work. We need to be paying attention to our world on our own. And just get prepared. That's the bottom line. These events are happening. They will continue to happen. And word to the wise, there's no safe place on this planet. Any place can have an earthquake. The place where there's no earthquakes does not exist. And word to the wise, get ready now. We have a window to get ready, which we don't know how long that window will be open. But people need to pay attention, educate themselves, and get ready post-haste.
One of the things that I have is, and I'm sure you have too, is sources of bits and pieces here there of classified information or their estimates of things. And one of the ones that kept coming up is in 2013, not 2012, but 2013, we're going to start seeing the solar max of solar cycle 24 is going to produce some real dandy, real powerful coronal mass ejection solar storms. And
exactly.
Space weather is a big deal. Ann, are you there? Do you want to comment on space weather? Because we've had a lot of storms over the last few weeks.
Well, we have. There's been a huge sunspot on the surface of the sun, and it has unleashed several flares that have headed our way, along with coronal mass ejections. And the one before, the coronal mass ejection that hit over the weekend, was induced significant ground currents. And I have reports of transformer fires well, all across the country. But the one that hit on Tuesday, or on Wednesday, excuse me, that was 2 days ago, was a surprise because what it did was, we weren't expecting much from it. It wasn't what they call a full halo CME. It didn't look like it was going to be hitting the Earth directly. And CME, is a very complex, complicated magnetic field. And it interferes with our magnetosphere. Our magnetosphere is what protects us from cosmic rays and ions and things that come from what they call the interplanetary magnetic field and the flares. So that when the flares first hit, they discharge electrons. Electrons are negative charged particles that have very little weight. And what they do is they charge up the atmosphere, but they also circle the magnetic lines of force, and they're what caused the aurora. We did have some beautiful aurora as far south as Iowa over the weekend. And then the second thing that happens is there's a proton flux. Now, protons are much heavier than electrons. They have a positive charge, and they will break through the ionosphere. And usually what they will do is intensify storms. For instance, last night we had an electrical storm that passed through Missouri, and it was all cloud-to-cloud lightning, which surprised me because I would have expected with the proton storm that we would have had some cloud-to-ground lightning. And then the third thing that happens, sometimes, it doesn't always happen in conjunction with a flare, but in this case it did, there will be a CME, and the CME is a coronal mass ejection that is a very complicated and condensed magnetic field. And when it interferes with our magnetosphere, well, so we weren't paying much attention to it because there was going to be a glancing below, and we didn't expect much from it. It was an M-class 6 flare, and so it wasn't an X-class flare, and doggone, this thing, it actually moved the let me start. The magnetosphere, we put our geosynchronous satellites inside the magnetosphere because the magnetosphere keeps them from being buffeted by the interplanetary magnetic field, which constantly changes. I mean, it's either positive or negative, and it also changes in its force field. So generally geosynchronous satellites are placed inside the magnetosphere, and that's to protect them from this anomalous magnetic field that lays outside the magnetosphere. Well, this CME that hit, and it shows it hitting at noon on March 15th, and today is the 16th, so it was yesterday. The magnetic line force went from a positive 150 nanoteslas to a negative 150 nanoteslas. And in doing that, it pushed our magnetosphere towards the Earth, and the geosynchronous satellites were left outside of the magnetosphere. They were no longer protected by the magnetosphere. Now, this thing didn't last very long. It only lasted maybe 5 or 10 minutes or so. And then it jumped back up and went to what they call positive 150 nanoteslas. So this was the chance for our geosynchronous satellites to be buffeted by outer space, by the magnetic fields that are in outer space. And I have not heard of damage to any of those, but you might want to check your GPS instruments and make sure that they're working and that they're working to the 10-meter range.
I know John had an interesting comment last week about that. When we come back, I want to hear more. Excellent analysis, and John, back in a moment.
Yes, that was Dr. Deagle, and that was from Friday. And I love the last part of the show. And I'll put it back on in a few minutes. Well, today's St. Patrick's Day. It is the weekend. We made it, yay, Saturday, first day of the weekend. And I'm going to give you some helpful tips while I'm waiting for Dr. Deagle's show to come back on. Uh, First of all, if you get too wasted, don't go out. Wait until it's daytime. Find a couch. If you're at someone's party, just stay there till the morning if you can. That's the best thing I can recommend to you. Find a couch. Sleep in your car in the driveway if you have to. If you have to leave. Also, what you can do, let's say that you can't, maybe you'll get lucky, but then you won't remember anyway. Also, if you have to go home, then maybe an hour before the party, or if you're at a bar, maybe an hour before you're getting ready to leave, call AAA. I would call AAA. Don't take the chance, and don't get too wasted. But if you think that there's a possibility you're gonna go to jail tonight, it's better to burn one of your AAA toes and call them like maybe 45 minutes before you gotta go, or an hour. Safe thing would be at least an hour, and they're probably going to be very busy tonight. I would say do that and burn one of your toes. That's my best advice for you. Do not get into the driver's side no matter what you do. You got to get into your car for something. Go from the passenger side and open the door and then put your keys in your back pocket. That's my best suggestion. Do not enter the driver's side. Number three, if say you're driving and you have your designated driver driving you home, hopefully, make sure, or if it's not your car and someone's giving you a ride home, or you're driving someone home and say it's not your car, make sure you have your driver's license. You know where the car's registration is. You have it ready to go. And you also have your proof of insurance. Say you're the designated driver and you say, yeah, I'll drive you home. You got to know where everything's at to minimize any type of problem. So make sure you know where all those three things are. If you haven't been drinking yet, still know where all three of those things are. If you're going anywhere tonight, say you had to work, if you had to work tonight for some reason, say you work at at a movie theater, you work in a restaurant, but you haven't been drinking, there's going to be thousands of checkpoints out there. People are going to be pulled over. They're going to probably pull you over. And make sure you know where everything is. Also, keep your name badge on. Keep your uniform on. Don't take your apron off. Don't take any of your uniform off. Go home with your uniform on so they know as soon as they look at you, you're coming from 7-Eleven, you're coming from Publix, you're coming from Safeway, you're coming from wherever you're coming from, and you haven't even done anything wrong, okay? Just make sure you keep your uniform on. Also, and if with AAA or whatever, what's wrong? Oh, my alternator's bad. Who cares? You're going to burn a toe. Better that than burning your license, spending like thousands of dollars, in fines and whatever's going on in jail time. Yep, that would be that's my best advice for you. No, I lost the thing. There's the picture. Alrighty then. And also, what I learned in chiropractic school, one of the science classes, what you need to do before you start drinking, if you want to minimize your your intake a little bit and not get too wasted, you take a tablespoon, sounds nasty, tablespoon of vegetable oil, and take that. Take it just like that off the tablespoon. like 20 minutes, 15 minutes before you start drinking. Get it down in your stomach, let it coat your stomach, and that will like inhibit some of the alcohol getting into your system. And maybe you won't get as drunk or sick or spun out. Now, if you have the spins, let's say you had a wonderful evening, now you got the spins. Someone told me once, and it did work. I watched it work for somebody. If you start spinning, lay on the couch, wherever you're laying, on the bed, put one foot on the floor, just one, like your left foot. If possible, I believe it's your left foot. Don't ask me why, but somehow that works. All of a sudden, your equilibrium's back. So, if that's the case, you start spinning. Let me know if that helps someone. Hopefully, I gave you some helpful advice for tonight. The best thing to do is just to stay home and party at home. That's your safest way to handle St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully you went to the store already, and if you do end up getting invited out to a bar, a stranger wants to buy you a drink, anyone wants to buy you a drink, do not leave your, men and women, don't leave your drink alone. Don't leave it. Don't let it out of your sight. You got to go to the restroom, take that drink with you. You want to order a drink? Hi, honey. Yeah, give me the... Or, yeah, either stand right next to them if they're ordering you a drink. Because I had a friend, someone ordered a drink for them. Next thing you know, she had some kind of roofie something in it. And she ended up on the floor from a glass of wine, spinning and in the hospital for a couple days. So someone put something in her drink. And all it did was go from the bar to her. And if you're going to dance, you hold your drink in your hand. Just don't dance too wild, or finish your drink and then go dancing. But don't let your drink out of your sight. That's a safety precaution nowadays. GHB, whatever the hell they put in there. Don't let your drink out of your hands, out of your sight. Finish it or take it with you, wherever you go. Bathroom, whatever. Alrighty, then let me see if Dr. Deagle's back right now.
Hydrogen with a hydrogen collector and a hydrogen fuel cell, whatever you want to do. This will actually measure the energy coming in and then adjust and turn on. Say I want to turn on your Generac propane generator or your natural gas line generator, and then provide backup power. Because most of the time, to be honest with you, you don't need to use a continuous source of power. You just need to make sure your batteries are operating until the next day when the sun comes out. And you only need to use your generator, including something like a Generac, which we have now, so our power never goes out, so we can continue to broadcast. Within a second, the transfer switch will switch it on, which I like the reliability of having that. The propane Generac, to me, is the best value for the money right now.
Absolutely. There's nothing else close to it.
Nothing close to it. Now, the next one in terms of money is basically a fuel cell. And I've talked to the company that makes the fuel cells here in America, and they have a program where they're going to switch from liquid natural gas to propane, have a propane conversion, and that'll be available by next year, which means you can have basically a fuel cell. It's roughly 1/2 to 1/3 the cost of solar now, and it can provide 100% of your power, not 50% or 40%. So that'll be like for half the cost or a third of the cost. It'll provide not 50% of your power, but 100%. So the fuel cells are really efficient. Problem is where you're going to get the fuel, and of course the ideal system would be things like biodiesel. We have a biodiesel generator. That's also really good, and you could use anything from literally leaves and wood chips in order to create a diesel fuel, and that's possible. You have to have the proper bioreactor to do that. If you can do that, it's not too messy. That's another efficient way of generating power. I think it's going to be a combination of the more efficient solar. I call solar hydrogen, where you actually have solar, either bioengineered, say, cyanobacteria or algae or something else like that, or new solar panels that are far more efficient, generating hydrogen. And hydrogen is the fuel that it generates to store the energy. So your storage is going to be in a new adsorbed hydrogen tank. We don't have hydrogen as a gaseous form. It's adsorbed to the tank, and you can transport it in your car. So the cars of the future will probably not be battery powered. They'll probably be hydrogen powered with these newer types of we want to call it like a honeycomb nanoparticle type hydrogen engines that can absorb tremendous amounts of hydrogen to the surface in basically almost a liquid, a semi-liquid form because of the nanopart technologies, and then you don't have to worry about storing batteries. But the most efficient batteries that I've seen, the nickel ones at ZapWorks are pretty good. They can be expensive. The ones that I've heard from the lithium pyrophosphate are going to be a little less expensive, and they're only 1/4 the weight of a regular battery, and they charge 5 times faster. So that technology we're going to be bringing out too. So we got two made in America alternatives. The ones in China, the nickel iron batteries are pretty garbage, if you want to call it.
Right. Well, they won't hold up, and I wouldn't spend the money on them now.
Yeah, the ones made in China are not made well. What the Chinese are trying to do is they're trying to copy everybody's technology, and they often don't have the patents or the technology or the wherewithal the engineers that actually worked on developing it. The guys up at ZapWorks in Montana have been working on it a long time. And they can make some really big batteries. I mean, I've talked to them, and they can make huge batteries to run a whole factory even.
Really?
So, but they're custom designed, and they're a little heavy, so you don't move them easily. They're not something you move around. The lithium pyrophosphate are small enough they actually have battery packs our special forces can use to run around with. They're small enough to put on, say, if you want a light airplane or something like that has battery packs and a little motor, because they're only 1/4 the weight. So it's kind of a new breakthrough technology. Our military is really using a lot of it, apparently.
Well, they'll use what serves their purposes and meets their needs if they can get their hands on it.
I want to throw out this article again, see what your comments are, John and Ann. Ancient mass extinctions caused by cosmic radiation, scientists say, and it's referring to a research study developed by a physicist in Berkeley, University of Berkeley, and it was done by basically every 62 million years. And the scientists from Berkeley actually discovered this theory. I want to read just a portion of the article here to kind of open up the discussion. Every 225 million years, the circuit going around is called a galactic year, is completed. And every 62 million years, the sun passes through in our solar system through this gaseous, high-level density radiation cosmic ray area of the galactic plane, the edge of the galaxy, as we pass through it like a carousel. And that has a major effect, and apparently we are going through that cycle again, as well as all these other nasty cycles. So we need some hard science.
And now I'll give you the news while we're waiting on their commercial break. Let me do that real quick for you. Earth changes. SOT.net. Australia. Cyclone Luau hammers the Pilbara region. Okay, let's see what else there is. 4.6 magnitude earthquake rumbles Haiti again. This is all from today. St. Patrick's Day strong storms, Missouri to Indiana. And Alaska's largest city ice snow record. Monarch butterfly numbers take a hit. I love butterflies. Horizontal tornado captured by amateur videographer. And I did favorites. Under my favorites, I got a lot of other favorites too for you today. I went all up and down today. Kamchata's Karim Sky volcano unleashes 3,100 meter ash cloud. Aviation alert code orange. Now, I said that from yesterday, so here we go. Let's see if we have something from the watchers. We don't have a lot of news. I didn't see anything on the extinction protocol tonight. Maybe they're celebrating St. Patty's Day. Scientists, this is the watchers. Scientists detect unusual seismic signals from tornado. Researchers sent first wireless message using neutrons. Ooh. Wonder how much that's going to heat up your cell phone. And let's see if there's something else. Swarm of earthquakes off the east coast of Honshu, Japan. That was a couple days ago. And let's see what's here today. I think that's just about it. Strong solar flare reaches M 7.9 peak on let's see, on March. It's cut off. March 13th, 2012. And I believe that's it for the watchers. Something, let's see, what's this? Something else just popped up. Wow, it's a pretty picture. I wish I can get the picture all the way in the thing so I can read what it says. Oh, I guess it's gone. It had to do with gamma rays. Let's see if I can go at the bottom and find it. Oh, Felix Baumgartner made test jump from space. Flooding in southeastern Australia. What does a solar storm sound like? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me see if the other thing, something popped up and it's gone. Let's see, here it goes. Aurora Borealis seen from International Space Station. Very pretty picture. Fermi Gamma Ray Telescope reveals mysteries at the edge of the universe. Here we go. Alrighty then. That's it for the watchers. And let's see if Dr. Deagle's back yet. A lot of commercials there. Let me see. No. And let's do this. If you're by yourself and you're alone, happy St. Patty's Day. Here we go. I'll have a drink with you. I'll be your virtual friend. Here we go. Let's have a shot. Since it's St. Patty's Day and we're stuck inside, but we're safe. We're safe. Here's to you. Here it is. All my cyber people out there. Have a happy St. Patty's Day. And we'll see if Dr. Deagle's back. And I'm not sure how long this videotape is going to keep going, this recording. So if it cuts off, have a happy St. Patty's Day. Ugh.
The galactic plane every 62 million years, there's an extinction level event. So that's kind of interesting. It also suggests that the electric universe, the plasma universe and space weather is really important. Where's space weather likely to go in the next few months and years, and what do you think is happening?
Well, we know that we're in the middle of solar cycle number 24, and that it's been a minimal solar cycle so far. We haven't seen nearly the number of flares that normally we would see during a solar cycle. Back when we were still in solar cycle 23, they were hyping up 24, saying it was going to be a very active solar cycle, and that has not happened. So the scientists are revisiting their models. You know, they've only been tracking these solar cycles, well, really, since we put satellites up, but at least for not much more than 150 years. And although, you know, Galileo, he noticed the sunspots and things like that, but we really haven't been tracking them much. So their guesses are, you're trying to define something that you have to extrapolate your data. And they came up with this 22-year cycle. You go through a minimum, and then 11 years later you go through a maximum, and then 11 years later you're back at a minimum. Well, that's only based on a scant amount of data. So
it may not be exactly it, but there's some variation. The scientists on the report, Dr. Malat, said his group, their model applied to 62 million year fluctuation diversity. From the Astrophysical Journal is where they presented this. And they said one possibility is that the organisms received harmful radiation from higher energy particles known as muons. So when the cosmic rays strike the Earth's atmosphere, they generate these muons that can cause mutations. They also mentioned that the upper atmosphere, that cosmic rays are the primary driver of cloud formation and lightning. In fact, it turns out that the primary energizer to create energized nanoparticles that create lightning in the Earth is cosmic rays. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, so cosmic rays actually generate the lightning in our clouds and the rainfall. If you actually look at it, it's the cosmic ray density that's driving up more cloud activity, It's also the levels of plasma activity in the universe that generate more volcanism under the Earth. And when you combine it with man's interference by killing the biosphere, like killing the oceans, which is what we're doing, and by destroying by cutting down the forests, the rainforests, we're reducing the oxygen cycle, which I mentioned before. So the CO2, which is a burning of fuel, there's a certain amount of stretch. If you put out CO2 without pollution, the Earth's plants can convert it back to oxygen. There's quite a bit of stretch there capable. But when you destroy the biosphere, which is what we're doing with pollution and depleted uranium and dumping into the oceans and doing lots of other nasty things, what we're doing, especially with things like deep well drilling, like the Macondo drill site that can release methane hydrates, is we're killing off the biosphere, which allows it to turn carbon dioxide back into oxygen. So it's interesting. We need to look at all these other drivers because we've not been doing that in the past. And when we see these scientists, they're coming up with theses we're pulling together. And it would be great someday if we can get Dr. McKenney on the program too to kind of comment on some of these other cycles, or maybe you can ask him, John.
Well, it would be, and I certainly can't make that promise on his behalf, but it would be wonderful.
Yeah, if not, then if you can ask him the question and have him on your show. And, of course, your show is 7 to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday on Central Standard Time on Republic Broadcasting. I think it would be a real good idea for people to really understand what's happening so they can realize that our world isn't preparing for it. And we're not talking about United Nations things. We're talking about each nation preparing, helping each other. One of the problems is that once you have central planning, just like in Russia or China, you have a disaster. And, that's what we see a central planner actually in the office now in the White House. He is a communitarian, they call it, i.e., known otherwise as
How about Commissar?
Commissar, yeah. Commissar with all his czars underneath him. He's a commissar. He's a communist. I mean, let's face it.
Right.
Obama is a communist. People don't realize he is which is basically a corporate whore for the elite only. And remember, in Russia, only 10% of the population, which are basically the white Russian elite, could become members of the Russian Communist Party. It's basically the same with the Politburo. That's what it's called in China. And the Politburo, only 80 million Chinese are communists. Most people think it's a communist country. No, it isn't. It's owned by the communists, but the rest of the people are just slaves. And most of those people that end up in these dark prisons, they call them black prisons, or get apprehended for prostitution or put into work gangs, they're actually apprehended because they've evangelized this one page of the Bible, which is why, I guess in this last few minutes, we should talk about St. Paddy's Day. Do you have any St. Paddy's Day comments or jokes, John and Ann?
You want to know about St. Paddy's Day's jokes?
Yeah, we had an hour yesterday with Mike McHugh. One of my favorite is maybe in heaven half an hour before the devil knows you're gone. We had Mike McHugh talking about it yesterday, the first hour, and of course St. Patrick basically kept with his monks and monasteries in Ireland, kept the gospel going and kept the Bible, and then re-evangelized Scotland, the United Kingdom, and then eventually Europe after the sacking and burning of most of the cities by the Vandals and all the other, Ostrogoths and Visigoths, they call them, all these hordes that roamed in the 6th, 5th, and 7th centuries and destroyed a lot of the churches throughout Europe.
Right. Well, I'm fresh out of St. Patrick's Day's jokes, unfortunately.
So, Ann, any comments about St. Paddy's Day?
Well, you're right. The Goths and the Visigoths, they descended out of the north, and they had a very interesting political situation up there, and that was that they were the Norsemen, and so when they go out on their ships, well, whoever led the troop was the strongest person. It wasn't somebody who inherited that post, or it wasn't somebody who had done great things in battle 10 years prior. It was whoever was best at that time became the leader. And that type of government was instituted. They brought that into Europe, but then that became corrupted, of course, and that also got transferred into America and has gotten corrupted now. But at that time, it was a new type of government, one that we hadn't seen before. The Romans, of course, they just became so they had so much nepotism, and then they had families that ruled, much like we do these days. An interesting book to read is, or the series is the Dune series of books, because you can really apply a lot of what's going on today to what went on in that. It's just a fictional series, but it makes a good read.
You're talking about the city of was it Arrakis? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, Arrakis. Yeah, well, he was the head of the family of Arrakis. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah,
when the Goths and the Visigoths came down from northern Europe, and you might wonder why they did that. Well, that's because Ice Age. I mean, the Ice Age was approaching, and they weren't able to support themselves on the food that they could grow.
Right. No one nothing like an ice age to ruin your day.
Right. So they came down south, and they took what they wanted, and they did destroy a lot of the Christian theology at that time. They tore down the churches. They had their own. They had their own gods and goddesses, and Thor and the hammer and all that.
Oh yeah.
But then eventually everything settled down over the next couple of centuries. I mean, you're talking 10 generations. Eventually people intermarry and they mingle. But you're right. It was Ireland was where St. Patrick, where the monks were, that kept the knowledge.
Alrighty then. You have a wonderful, wonderful St. Patrick's Day. Be safe. If you can, stay home. If not, have an escape plan to get yourself home safely, or stay where you are. All else fails, sleep in your car in a friend's driveway if you can't get home, and they won't let you stay on the couch. Or AAA. Whatever it takes. Take care. One day down of the weekend. One more day to go. Take care. I'll see you again tomorrow.